Hi, Sujit. Good morning.
Hi Shiva, good evening.
Hey, you are from Bangalore, right?
Yes,
Okay. So, how did you celebrate Diwali?
yeah, it was good.
Okay. So much of lights,
Yeah, only lights, not much of crackers.
not much of crackers. Okay.
How was yours?
Yeah, here I mean, I came for a business trip, so I'm alone. Yeah, to be frank, I didn't spend anything much here.
Okay.
Hi, Mahesh. So let's wait for a few minutes. So others in line. Hi, Dharmesh. How was your Diwali?
I didn't do much for Diwali, Shiva. My family there in India.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay. Same with me.
yeah, I know. Did you go out for at least lunch, dinner?
Yeah, I went yesterday for both dinner and I went to temple
Okay, good.
here in Chicago.
You have friends over there, or
Yeah, I have friends and as well as colleagues.
okay, all right.
Yeah, I went with them.
Good, Shiva.
Yeah, let me see for 2 more minutes. More people are joining. Okay, by the time these guys join, just let me explain or summarize what we were discussing on last class. So we talked about basic what is recursive calling. So calling one method within its own implementation is recursive calling, same like in any programming language. And we saw passing a function as a parameter to another function. Okay, so first use case, passing a function as a parameter to another function. This we called it as higher order functions. And second scenario, returning a function from another function. This is called as nested function. Okay, and when we don't give any name, function without name, anonymous function. And nested functions carrying their context, meaning accessing local variables of outer function. Accessing local variables of outer function where it was defined and using the same values whenever you call that. This is called as closures. Okay. And anonymous functions are also known as lambda expressions in other languages. So we talked this much. Okay. And few definitions about currying. Okay, not much important for it. Pure functions and lazy evaluation. So if it is at a variable declaration, we use lazy keyword. If it is inside a function, we just specify just arrow. Inside a function, if you are defining, we use just arrow. Okay. Lazy evaluation, both at variables declaration and function. Okay. So these are the 5 topics, the points that we discussed last week. Okay. Now, so we can discuss collections, but anyway, this will be just a basic introduction to collections. So I'm thinking like I will pass this. Anyway, we'll discuss the collections full-fledged manner directly in the once we cover OOPS concepts. Okay. So even if I cover these 2-3 slides on function or collections, that will be not complete. Anyway, we have to again revisit that concept topic completely in the after completion of OOPS concepts. Okay, so I'm thinking that I would freshly start with a fresh topic today, the OOPS concepts. Okay, OOPS concepts. So classes in Java, classes in Scala, I'll compare. Okay, for your understanding, I'll first start with all these examples. I'll first start with a Java equivalent Java code, and I will show you that execution in Java, and then we will see that in Scala, so that it will be very easy for you guys to migrate. Okay. So somewhere I created this project. This is not the one. Scala underscore test. Not even this. Scala test project. Yeah, that's the one that we are working now. Now, so in order to start with anything, just I want to just show you something. Okay. So I'll take a simple class, vehicle. So for any one of you guys like don't have even the Java basics what is class, what is object. I think I have explained this in our Java things, but again, I can just spend a few minutes on that and explain. Okay. So let me, my class vehicle, and okay. So I will declare this class as public or just a class. Just give me a second. So I'm just declaring a class vehicle and treat this class, whatever I'm trying to do here, in simple terms. If I have to define, if you guys, most of you guys are coming from SQL background, try to correlate. I mean, obviously, if you're not from a Java background, obviously you might be having an idea on SQLs at least. Okay. So creating a class is like a creation of a table, and creation of objects. So the most 2 important components that you come across either in any OOPS concepts programming language, it could be Java or Scala. So one is class So other one is object. Okay. So third one is methods. Okay. And again, these methods are at two levels. One is at class level, another one is at object level. But let's not go that level for now. So if I have to correlate these things, I mean, try to compare this class declaration with a table creation. Class creation is equal to, and object is nothing but a row insertion. And methods are just invoking some functions on columns or something like that. Okay, so just one value at a time or something similar to my functions. Now, in our example, let's say if I have to create a table, just create table vehicle. Okay, generally I don't take this much, but most of you guys observed that from non-Java background. Okay, and learning now the Java. So create table vehicle. Here I specify year of manufacturing, which is int, and model, and I will give an ID for this also. In ID int, year int, model string. Okay, and some brand or something. Okay, just don't go by this meanings of them. So this is like a creation of a table. Just a template is created, and the same template, if you have to create in Java, will create a class. Okay, so class vehicle, same thing, just declare the attributes. So whatever the attributes that you have declared there, private ID, private int ID, okay, and private int year, and private string model, and private string brand. And along with this, you have to define your, if you want to fetch a value, you should write getter methods, you should write setter methods, and you should write a constructor for object creation. For an empty, or whenever you create an object, how does that row should get created? Okay, so let's assume getter and setter methods and constructor are defined here. And object creation. So whenever you insert a row into it, insert into vehicle, just an ID 100, year of manufacturing is 2010 or something, and model, and don't go by my names, okay, just I'm giving Fiesta, and brand is Ford. Okay, okay, and similarly, if I want to insert another record, so vehicle ID 101, year of manufacturing is 2013, Swift model, or for your convenience, I will reverse these two. Okay, easy to read. So Ford is the brand, company name, and Fiesta is the model, and here similarly Maruti is the model, and Swift is the model of the car. Okay. So you inserted 2 records, and for them you create objects in Java. Vehicle, Sophista, or any name that you give, or V1, just new vehicle, or just provide your names. Same 100, and the year is 2010, and model is, you can give in this order, brand Ford, and this is an object, and this is a class. Class is nothing but a template. It's just a blueprint where it has attributes, it has methods and constructors, everything. Object is something that got instantiated, meaning if you assign values to those attributes, then that becomes an object. If you assign values to those attributes and give him a name, and this is, if you say this is of class vehicle type, and all of these attributes have these values, then you call it as an object. Okay. Now, at least having this much of basic knowledge, let me show you, let me create the same in here. Okay. So here I have 4 attributes. Let me generate the constructors for this. So source, go to source and generate constructor using all the 4 fields. Okay. And generate getter and setter methods. Go to source, generate getters and setters for all the 4 fields. Okay, and I want to define one more method, which is drive. Okay, so vehicle means it will have drive. Drive is just an operation. It's not an attribute that you can declare there. Okay, drive means it's a verb. All attributes you can declare them as fields, but any verbs that you can do on that, you can't declare them as a attribute there, but you can define the methods for them. Okay. Public int, just drive distance. Okay. Int distance. Return miles. Let me declare one more attribute. Private int miles. Miles it got driven. Okay. And I will define that as well. Int miles. Okay. So what it should return is miles equal to miles plus distance and return miles, or I'll simply set this as void, and I'll write my get miles method. Okay, generate. Okay, so both get miles and set miles I have written. So this is my Java class. So this vehicle is having 4 attributes. It is having vehicle ID, year of manufacturing, and model, or I'll put this on top. Okay. And brand and model, and the miles driven. And here, I'll give this miles driven also set to. I will initialize at the time of construct. And I have one extra method, that is drive. And drive for 100 miles, and that 100 miles distance will get 100 miles distance. That 100 miles distance will get added to your miles, and that keeps on increasing. Okay. Now, if this is your Java class, it has all the methods and everything, and let me write public static void main or one another class. So public, in order to execute, you need another public class with a public static void main. Okay, public class vehicle test. It needs to be defined in its own. That's a good. Okay, just to refactor this. The error message here is that if you declare any public class, that class name should match with your file name. Okay, so that's the reason. So in my public static void main, public static void main, okay, just let me fix this. Either I will refactor this. Okay. I should not have changed this. Okay, so now creation of an object here. Vehicle v1 equal to new vehicle. If you guys are from Java background, don't get bored. The reason I'll compare these things with Scala. Okay, so year 2013 and Maruti and Swift. And miles driven, 0 miles. And if I have to print any of these attributes, now sysout println vehicle ID just v1 dot get ID. Okay. So vehicle here. So try to observe the differences between this and Scala. That's the reason I'm showing it here. Okay. So brand. Just get the brand. I could have already typed and explained, but you might not get this line by line observation. Okay, that's the reason. Get model and so what I want to do is drive for. So I want to drive this for 100 miles. Okay, and vehicle miles before drive v1 dot get miles, and after that again you are driving for 100 miles and see after driving. So v1 dot get miles. So these are things that I want to perform. And if I run it as a Java test, okay, so vehicle ID 100, so vehicle year 2013, brand, I passed in reverse order. Maruti is the brand. Okay, I should have done reverse of this too. No problem. Okay, so these two got reversed. No problem. Don't worry about them. Vehicle miles before drive 0, after drive 100. Okay, so I didn't do nothing much complex operation here. I declared a one class and with 5 attributes. Okay, so ID, year, brand, model, and miles driven. Okay, and I have an extra method, drive for a distance. So for this, I have to write this much of code here, almost like 80 lines of code. The same operations, the same class if I have to declare, and everything same if I have to maintain in Scala. So we declare our Scala class. Let me declare it in a Scala class. So here I'll call vehicle. If I give this, especially this you guys have to observe. So when you are programming, when you are coding both Java and as well as Scala programs within the same project, the class name should be different. You should not think like vehicle.java and vehicle.scala can be created in the same. At least the classes should be different. Otherwise, it reports that vehicle.class is already present. Because after compilation, everything is the same class names, right? So I'll declare this as a vehicle S for Scala, and class vehicle S. Now, in this, what are all the fields that I need? ID, year, brand, model, miles. Where ID, which is int, and where year, which is again another integer, and where string, okay, or let me declare this as a val. Okay, so val string, brand, which is a string, again val model, string, and where miles, which is of int. All this you have declared there. Just make it concise so that you can see in the same line. So you have declared your class, and all I do is I'll just write this def drive distance, which is of int, okay, and here equal to miles plus, or simply miles plus distance, or simply miles equal to and this is my Scala class. Okay, I can write my public object also in the same thing, but the same way you have your public class and main method here, another separate public class and main method to create your objects. Even in Scala we need that, okay, but we need object. We'll discuss about that. Vehicle test, yes. Okay, and def main, same like that main public static void main method. Args or array of okay, same public static void main method I declared here with this. Now I declare this val v1 equal to new vehicle as of ID 100 and year 2013, and brand is Maruti, and Swift, and miles driven is 0. Okay, now so I'll println just vehicle details, just trying to, okay, so let me print everything in the same line. Vehicle details v1 dot id year v1 dot year, and similarly okay. So after year, what all I have? Brand v1 dot brand and model so miles okay. And now I'll call the drive method. So here also I have to drive that v1 dot drive of 100 miles, and after that println of miles driven okay. Just yeah, I mean these println statements are okay, don't compare them. This is based on your output, how much ever you need that we have there, or for your understanding I'll keep them separate lines only. Okay. Now, so here you have this much of big class, around like 65 lines of code. The execution, the result part of it, let's leave this, okay? Because here also you need those many attributes, just creating an object, printing, and the same stuff you're doing. But here, just for having your class operations, you have almost like 65 lines of code. And here you have just 5 lines of code. Okay, and you can even make it more concise.
So basically, Shiva, here we are not defining the constructor, getter and setter.
Let me conclude that. Let me run this too, and I will show you the results are same, and then I will explain the comparisons. Okay, I will show the what is equivalent to what and why it is achieved, and then I will poll for questions. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. So I mean, if you can catch up things on the fly, that's well and good. So generally, if you guys are from Java background, I leave this. Okay, I just show the Java class and its equivalent. I'll write its equivalent Scala class, and I will ask you guys to tell me what's happening. Okay, but majority of you guys having lack of skills. I mean, I should not be saying that, but yeah, just still learning the OOPS concepts or something. Okay. So when I ran this, so run as a Java application, okay, and you see the result, just see Android and brand Maruti, model Swift, and before drive 0, after drive 100. Okay, and if I run this just as a Scala application, so vehicle details, ID 100, year 2013, brand Maruti, model Swift, before 0, after 100. The results are same, okay, and the expected is everything same. But if you see the lines of code, the code footprint, just there you have almost like a, I mean, even if you do a bit of indentation here, it might come up to 5 lines, but you just have 3 lines, and here you have 65 lines of code. So here you have getter and setter methods, constructors, everything, and the attributes declared separately in the class. Okay. Now, in Scala, so we don't have those getter and setter methods. If you want, you can write, not a problem. But without them, also you are able to survive. Now, if I want to set a particular value, v1.id equal to 101, okay, and print. So v1.id, the same ID. So if you want to print this, now it should print the vehicle ID as 101. Okay, so you set that ID value as 101. Sorry, okay. This is just text message, but value is 101. Okay, and here if you want to change the same, you have to invoke the method. v1.setId as 101 and sysout.println just vehicle ID get ID. So if you want to set a vehicle ID, you are calling a method set ID, and if you want to fetch that value, you are calling that get ID method. But here in Scala, you are simply able to directly access that method or the field v1.id equal to 101. This is as good as calling that setter method. Or if you don't care about that, so you have set your value and you have fetched your value just by your field name.
Hey Shiva.
Yes, Raj.
Okay, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
In the Java, whenever we design this kind of Pojo class and we just define the field variable as a private and define the setter and getter, so we can, like no one can directly understand the field names, right? Because since they are private, so you cannot access from outside. But why in the Scala we have directly the variable access?
Here again, we will discuss that as well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Just remind me if I forget. Okay. I will answer your question. Now, so there you can't access just the variable name. That's it. But the values anyway you can access by methods in Java. Okay. Just the variable name you can't access. That how does that ensures your security?
In the Java?
Yeah.
Usually that's why, because the actually basically in the Java we have one of the OOPS concept as encapsulations, and
as part of encapsulation, if you want to hide a field, you just make it as private and you don't expose a getter method, then it is secured.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
If you don't expose a getter method with public scope, then that field is secured. If you expose a public getter method, you are just saving your variable name. I mean, you are protecting your variable name, but not the value. If your variable name is password and so value is actual value, whether you want to protect the variable name or actual value.
Yes.
Obviously, if you have a getter method, the user can access that password. That's a different. Okay, let's discuss that as well. But let me complete this. Okay.
Okay.
And whatever you said, if you have getter and setter methods, that encapsulation, you are not actually achieving that. That's what I wanted to say. That. Okay. Let's come back to that again.
Okay.
Now, so here you are able to set a value to a field, and you are able to fetch the value of your field. And you just declared all your fields in the class declaration itself. And now there is no need of constructor or that's a wrong statement, of course. I shouldn't be say like that. There is you don't need to explicitly specify your constructor if you are just fine with one constructor, whatever you have there. And the reason is the body of your entire class itself will act as a constructor. The body of your Scala class will act as a constructor. So constructor is the method that gets invoked when you create a new object, or in other terms, if I have to specify, whenever you invoke new operator with that class name, your constructor method will get called. Right? Your constructor will get called. Now, if you have this vehicle, and let's say I just have a sysout constructor begins, or just even before super, if you want to put, and at the end, I think super always needs to be a top constructor. Call must be the first element. Okay. No problem. I'll put it here. And constructor ends. Now, I don't even need to do all this stuff. Let me put, just by creation of an object, that will get executed. Run as a Java application, and it's a launching test. So constructor begins, constructor ends. So that means your constructor, this method got executed, only this method. And inside this, all this println and this println got printed. But now, if I come here, so say if I simply put println, constructor begins, still in constructor. So as per the constructor, so if you create an object, that's the first method that should get called. So what I am telling here, I am creating an object. So val v1 new vehicle S 100 2013 Maruti Swift 0. So whenever you create an object, entire class body will get executed. Meaning, is there anything that needs to be executed for this drive method? this is not an executable statement. This is a declaration. There is nothing to execute and drive. When I am executing my class, def drive is just a declaration. That is not an executable statement. Executable is something, this println, it can get executed and it will print. And this can also print. So the entire body of the class, Scala class, acts like a constructor. See? So I didn't do any other operation. I just create an object. My class got executed. Constructor begins, and even at the last, before the last line, printing that still inside the constructor. Okay. So, few things now. To summarize the differences, here you don't need, you can achieve the getter and setter methods, where if you declare your fields on your class declaration, and this doesn't mean that you can't declare fields inside. You can still declare, same like in Java, you can still declare where some fuel level, so which is of int, maybe 100% or 100 liters are there. This is a regular variable, same like your variable that you declare here. But if you have a fuel level, and here also you have a fuel level, private int, this is not part of your constructor. Fuel level is not part of your constructor. When you create an object, this field will not get initialized when it is not a constructor parameter. This is just a local variable to your class. And similarly here also, fuel level is a local variable. It's not a constructor parameter. You don't need to pass this value or field in the constructor. So here this is like where fuel level is a local variable, and this value is the same for all the objects, and this will be available for all the objects. Okay, and in Scala, in your Eclipse, you can't see what is its equivalent implementation in the background Java, but in the shell, in the Scala shell, you can find this. Let's see this, how exactly it got converted into backend. In the backend, I mean, you may not find the exact method implementations, but the skeleton part of it, you will find it. Let's try to understand from that. So I'm in my Scala shell. Let me declare my class. Oh my God, there was a space I gave. Because of that, it declared the vehicle as already. Just let me. This is, since it is a new line. So if you want to find a Java equivalent implementation for a Scala class, try running. So there is a command called -java p -c, and provide your class name. Vehicle, yes. Here you can see this much of Java code printed for that. The background. If you see, so it's compiled from this vehicle S is compiled from this class. This is its equivalent Java implementation. So for your class vehicle S, it declared a public class vehicle S. And for your ID, year, if you see for each field, so this is a method. This is a getter method. Public int ID and return that ID. So get field of ID I and return that ID. And there is an equivalent setter method, public void ID underscore $EQ. So here the getter method of ID is with the same name, ID. Method name itself is ID. Here that's the reason you feel like you are accessing the same field, but that is actually you're calling the getter method there. So here when I say v1.id, this is as good as I'm calling that getter method. And this v1.id underscore $EQ of 101. Okay, and when you don't have a parameters, any values to pass it, Scala Eclipse enforces not to provide the parenthesis. Okay, this int does not take any parameters here. So that's the reason. So even though it's a method, if it is not accepting any parameters, no need to give the parenthesis. And here I'm on the object v1, I'm able to call the method ID underscore $EQ with the value 101. If I execute this now, I can still find the same values. Vehicle ID is 101. Got set. So this is equivalent to v1.id equal to 101. And this is the simplest way that programmers will like to. Instead of calling a method, you just set that value. So for my ID field, I have both my getter and setter methods automatically defined by the Scala compiler. Now here, my getter method name is same as my field, and setter method name is field name underscore $EQ. And similarly for my year, I have a getter method. This is my getter method, get field, and the below one is the setter method, year underscore $EQ. And if you observe the brand is a string, and I mean not just by the data type. If you observe here, so there is a getter method, public return java.lang.string brand and get field. And brand underscore $EQ is not there. Immediately after that, you can see get method for model. And again, for miles, you can see both getter method and setter methods. And fuel level also, you have declared a local variable. You just declared it, irrespective of whether it's a class, constructor variable or not, class variable or not. You just have declared a field as a fuel level var, and you can see that on that field also you have a getter and setter methods. And so the one that you have written, public void drive method, so that is just as it is there. And it has declared, Scala compiler has declared a constructor for you, public vehicle S, int ID, year, brand, model, and miles. That means here, so for all the fields, it has declared the getter and setter methods and constructors with the fields that you have provided at the class declaration. But for a couple of the fields, it didn't provide you the setter fields, setter methods. What are they? Brand and model. So what is the difference between brand, model, and ID, year, and miles?
Brand is the val type, right? So
yeah, brand is a val type, whereas ID and year are like
variable type.
So if it is a var variable, so you can have a setter method. Val means constant. Once set in the constructor, you can't invoke a setter method on that because this is a constant. So once a car or a vehicle is purchased with a particular brand and model, you can't change them. Okay, of course you can't change the year of manufacturing also, but I declared this. So brand and model are constants. So on constants you can only have a getter methods, and on variables you will have both getter and setter methods automatically declared by your Scala. And no matter whether those fields are declared in the class declaration or inside your class, even if you have a var or val field declared inside your class, even that will have only getter method. If you have a var fuel level, even for that getter and setter methods will be available by default for you with just by the field name. Okay, now, so because of that, it reduced this much of code, just 65 lines to 3 lines of code. Or if you add that fuel level also, again that getter and setter methods, if you add and everything, it will go even more. Now, that's just an example. Okay, so let me give those if you want. So if you want to practice this, anyway, I will give all these programs in the sample code, but in case if you want them, I will put it in the example source code. Okay. So that way, getters and setters, everything will just generated by your Scala, and constructor, entire your class itself is like a constructor. Anything that you provide inside that class declaration, any executable statement, that will get executed at the time of object creation. That itself is your constructor, and that constructor we call it as a primary constructor. And constructors are special methods that are called when an object is instantiated. In other words, when we use the new keyword. The constructor initializes the newly created object. Okay, the same concept in any language. In Scala, the entire body of the class is the constructor. if the constructor takes 0 parameters, we can omit the parameter list here. If you don't want to take any, if you want to declare a constructor with 0 parameters accepting, you can simply omit this. You can write this way also. Okay, but you don't have to pass these values at the time of object creation. Okay. Next. So if the constructor parameter is declared as a val, Scala generates only a getter method for it, but setter method is not generated. And if the constructor parameter is declared as a var, Scala generates both getter and setter methods. The same in Scala terminology, we call this accessor. Getter methods we call as accessor methods, and setter methods we call them as mutator methods. Okay, and for any reason, if you don't want to, this is what you are expecting, Raj. Okay, if you need encapsulation, if you want to protect whatever you have done so far, even in Java, it is not encapsulation. You just declare them as a private, and again, like, the confidentiality is not maintained. You're still providing the getter and setter methods on them. So I don't want someone to steal my year of manufacturing year. Okay, so I should not expose making this field as year field as private will not solve. I should not expose any get methods, public get methods on this. Okay. So if that is the case, then you declare this. What you have to do, if you have to use this year method only internally inside this class, don't expose this as a private a public method, but you can declare something like a private, or you can utilize inside your class. And the same facility, if you want to make that, you don't want to expose your year of manufacturing. You don't want others to know how old your car is. Okay, then you simply declare it as a private. If you declare a private method on this, and if you observe, okay, again, if you just compile and if you see here, Java p-c vehicle yes, you will not find neither getter method nor setter methods on year. After ID has both getter and setter methods. Immediately after that, you have brand and model. Okay, but within your class, same like here in Java, if you declare the getter method as a private here, so you can call this get year method inside your vehicle class. The same way, you can make use of this year. You can still access just year. Okay, vehicle year, it prints you the year. And if you try to execute this, okay, vehicle year is 2013. Now, if I uncomment this, if I try to access or just let me try to access this here. So v1 dot year method itself is not there. See, I'm not able to access it. This is how you achieve that security. Year is not accessible from here. So variable year in class vehicle S cannot be accessed in vehicle yes. I mean, the messages might be a little bit confusing. It's not making sense, right? Variable year in class yes cannot be accessed in vehicle S. Its meaning is that the class variable or this variable is not available in the object of vehicle S. This is how you achieve your whatever your encapsulation or security on the fields that you don't want to expose. Okay. So this is either you declare them as private var, or one more way is simply don't specify whether it is a var or val. Even in that case, the same. Let's try to access year. Same error. Value year is not a member of vehicle S. It's giving you that. If I try to same again generate here, you can see there won't be any getter and setter methods. Okay. What is the command? Java p-c. What happened? It's a constructor drive. See, again same. So year field is there in the constructor, but for this field you don't have neither setter nor getter methods. This is how you can play with your fields. Now, if you don't want both getter and setter methods, either give the private keyword or just omit giving val or var. Okay. If you just want getter methods on them, use val. If you need both getter and setter methods, use var. I hope it is clear for you guys now. If you declare your fields as private, then those fields will be accessible only inside your class. And Scala does not generate getter or setter methods when neither val nor var are specified on constructor parameters. We cannot access such fields outside of class, obviously, since there are no getter and setter methods. But still, you can access that inside your class. Here, there is no error message. Okay, I don't need to execute every time. So when there is no error message, that means it can be accessible inside. Does this make sense?
Yes, Siva.
I know I'm confident on you. So I need it from others.
Do you need anything from me?
Yes.
Carry on, carry on.
No
comments.
That is caring.
I'll catch you offline after this.
No, I mean, the concepts are simple only. You just have to focus on this. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing with 1 hour, 15 minutes we discussed is just this 6 lines of code. That's it.
Shiva, just a question, not related to this technically.
Yeah.
Without the Java, Scala, I think looks easy. So why do we need to learn Java and then Scala?
What is it, Dharme? I didn't get your question clearly.
Without Java, can't we learn Scala?
So without Java, can't we learn Scala? You can learn. Only thing is you need to understand the OOPS concepts. That's it.
OOPS concept. Okay, yeah.
So you need what is class, what is object, and how to access what is a constructor. Okay, all these are OOPS concepts, not Java's concepts. I should not be saying that, because
Okay.
C++ also has the same concepts. Okay, everything, any language that implements the OOPS concepts will have the same terminology: class, object, constructor, methods, and static fields. If you know this much, and polymorphism, inheritance, this much is enough.
Yeah.
Why we took the Java is, most of you guys might not be aware of C++, and at least little bit knowledge you might be having Java. That's why I compare with that. That's the only reason. Okay.
I was going crazy to do a lot of understanding from Java side.
Okay. So
I can
forget
define
about Java side.
Yeah.
With today's concepts, so what is class? I just gave you basic definition here. Okay.
Right.
Comparing with what is class and what is object, and how to declare those class attributes. If you want them to be initialized at the time of every object creation, you have to declare them in the class declaration.
Yep.
And if you need any fields locally in the class, you can declare inside your class as well. And how to access those fields, and how to set those fields, and how to invoke the methods. Did you get that understanding here?
Yeah, 100%.
If you get this, no need to go back to Java.
Yeah.
That even more confuses you. The reason only why I take Java and Scala comparison, if you guys have a little bit of Java knowledge, even if I tell you 100 times not to compare, you'll still compare, and you'll confuse. That's the reason I myself taking that comparison and trying to make you clear. Otherwise, people like Raj and others, they totally mess up with things. They don't understand. If I don't make that confusion clear in the session itself, that confusion goes on. And someone who is learning freshly here, okay, you can get it, but the OOPS concepts, you should have basic idea.
Yep.
Okay?
This looks very easy for me because I kind of I know the OOPS concept. I learned like long back.
Okay.
Be able to relate.
So if you feel comfortable at this, I will go with this pace only, and I'll try to explain the OOPS concept first, and then directly explain the Scala concept. Even that is also fine for me. I can save at least 20 to 25 minutes explaining the Java.
Yeah, that's fine for me, but consider others as well. I'm not sure about others.
So, yeah, Snehali, I mean, you made some.
Okay. There you are. I have nothing to say. I'm totally blank. Don't worry, I'll catch it up. It's okay.
Okay. See, all we did is I just declared the attributes of a class of the class.
Yeah, I got that. And the way you compared it with SQL, that really, that was a really good comparison, because we coming from SQL background.
Yep.
It made pretty clear to us as to how things are in Java.
Yep.
So, well, I got the basic framework, and but obviously this getter, setter, I think after you've used this or a couple of words, I would have to go and read it.
See, forget about getter and setters, everything. I declared some fields in the class.
Okay.
You know how to access them. You know how to set them.
Yeah.
Right? Correct?
Got that, yeah.
Perfect. forget about all those things.
Perfect.
If I declare this as a var, I can both set a value and get a value. Obviously, because it's a variable.
Because variable. If it's val, then you cannot.
Yes, obviously you can't set it.
Yeah, true.
And if you don't want to access or set that value again, and if you don't want to access that value outside of your class, you just declare it as just without var and without val.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it does now.
Those are the only 3 statements that I explained till now from the beginning.
And private too. Private.
Yeah, private. Yeah. Either you keep private or you omit both val or var. And anything that you have any executable statement inside your class, that entire class body will get executed whenever you create an object. These are the four statements that you guys have to conclude from this entire 1.5 hour discussion. That's it.
Yeah.
The only reason I made all the discussions for others.
To compare between Java and Scala.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, if Java is not required at this moment, then just let's move on to Scala and not get confused, because the Java was really confusing the way you explained us. I think probably because I'm from a non-Java background.
So forget about all your Java skills. I declared just only compare your SQL skills and Scala.
Yes, and I'm doing that. I think that's
table with 4 columns, table with 4 or 5 columns, and you created a record. And how are you accessing that? Just by that record.column name. This is a record name that you gave v1, and v1.brand, v1.model, v1.miles. And if you have any function or any method that you have to call, just v1.drive. And if you have to set a value, just v1.id equal to some value. If you want to get a value, so v1.id is get a value. That's it. All simple. If you guys really feel like skipping the Java comparison, I can do very well that, and it makes your understanding even more simpler. But
I think you should do that, especially for me. I think.
I'm also coming on that way.
Okay. The only reason why I take is if at least half of you guys are from Java background, that confusion continues, like how it is getting that, how it is setting that, and okay, yeah, maybe I'll try to minimize the comparison.
Yeah, you can get the feedback from others as well, because we have to consider others as well, right?
Yep. Mostly, I think, except Raj, no one is. Yeah. So let me see, Raj. I mean, I'll try to minimize the comparison. If you get confused, just let me know. I will provide the comparison for you. Okay?
Yeah, exactly, Shiva. You can skip the Java portion, and wherever I feel the confusion, I will definitely ask you.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Shiva, for making it clear.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. So this way, we just talked about a class and its constructor and its methods and variables. Okay, so this is called, the entire body of class is called as primary constructor. And one simple test for you guys, for your understanding, just again, it involves a little bit of Java in the backend. So I have a class called person. Okay, so it has a 2 constructor parameters. So one is the first name and last name, and it's printing that the constructor begins, and inside that I have some private constant, private val home, system.get property. It is some system methods available to get your home directory. Okay, so don't worry about that method. Just make use of that. So override def toString. Okay, so this one, instead of making you confusions, I will explain. Okay, so toString is a method, or one more thing that if I have to explain, any class in Java, they extend or they have in inheritance concepts. If I have to explain, if you declare any class, car class, okay, in Java, so if I have a class car, so even if you don't extend any of this, any other class, by default this class extends a super cosmic class that is called as object. Okay, so object is a super class, I mean, which is the first very beginning, or in the hierarchy of all the classes, this is the top level class. And any class you declare is a child class for this. And by default in the object class, you will have some methods. Okay, so those methods are a toString is one method, and a hash value, or I think get hash or hash value or something. Okay, let's not worry about this hash for now. The toString will just print your object status as a string value. Okay, and whenever you create an object of car, and if you try to print, or if you try to call this, let's say you have a object of car C1, new car, and even though you don't have this toString method available in this car, you can still call c1.toString. Okay, so this will just print the object in the string format. And if you use any statement inside your println, okay, both in Java and Scala, so println always expects parameters to be of string data type. So all its parameters to be string data type. Even if you pass ID, so how did it print that as 100? I mean, ID is an integer type in our previous class, but still it printed that value. So it converts that every field that you pass, it invokes that toString method on this. If it is not a string data type already, it invokes the toString method. And similarly, if you pass simply the object name also, on that object it calls the toString method. Okay, this is the same concept in Scala as well. Whenever if you have any fields in your println statement, if you are passing any other argument, any arguments other than string, the toString method on that field will get called. If it is an integer.toString. If it is a class, that class name dot this car.toString will get called. But even though the toString method is not available in this class, this is, since this is a child class of this, and it can use this methods, its parent class toString method, and it prints that. And I'm just overriding this. If I complete this explanation, this covers the inheritance also. So inheritance means you will have some generic methods in the parent class, and in your child class, you can just invoke those methods without even declaring here. You can simply c1.toString means you will get this toString method invoked. But by default, with default implementation of toString, you will not get a meaningful string value. So if you want to override that, so you don't want this toString method implementation to be executed for your object, but you want your own execution, your own implementation. Okay, So I can simply specify. There is, in this example, one more way of string substitutions also you can see. So you have seen strings just declaring in this way, right? This is how clumsy is this. If I can write this same this way, if it is not calling the methods, just if it is a method fields, that's fine. But if it is just a variables that you have here, methods object dot, this one is okay. Okay, let me keep this. I simply have to instead of having this, what I can do is I can simply put this same like in your Unix. We pass the variable names in back quotes, right? If you pass in a single quotes or back quotes, so this dollar will act like a field, but not like a string. But this is like a string, but anything that has a dollar preceding it, that will be treated like a variable. Same way, if you have dollar in this Scala also, this is strings features. You just have to specify this. See, if I have the substitute string or string feature, yes, then the year got highlighted. This as a field. And if you have n number of fields, you can just keep giving them. That's it. Just $brand and $model. This way you can give. Okay. So in this example, what I am trying to do here is so I am overriding the default toString method that comes from my superclass object just by defining override and redefining that method def toString equal to yes, and $first name, last name is $age years old. This is what the string that I want to return. And def print home, println, as home is home, and def print full name, println of this. And all these are declarations. This def print home, def toString, def print full name, and var age, val home. All these are declarations. And anything non-highlighted in this class are executable statements. This println, this is an executable statement. Print home, I'm calling this home method from inside my class itself. And print full name is again calling this print full name method. And println still in the constructor, calling this at the end of this class. So here, that means I have 4 executable statements. One println, one calling print home, and second calling print full name, and the last one. Now, if I create an object for this, val v1 equal to, so new person, just if I give Snehali, some p. Okay. So this is another one proof that the entire body is your constructor. That's it. I'm not trying to. I don't have any new concept in this. Just this is another example that whenever you create an object, entire body will get executed. And when entire body means not your definitions, only the executable statements. See, I'm creating an object with first name as Nehali and last name as P. So it printed this println, the constructor begins because the entire class gets executed. And then the next executable statement is print home. Print home, what is the execution statements that are present? Println s home equal to $home. Yes, that it got printed. Okay. And the last line still in the constructor that got printed. But when I asked to print full name, so it executed println of this. So this means this and super keywords are same both in Java and Scala. But what does they mean by this? Means your current object, whatever the object that you are trying to create, and super means its parent class object. Okay, so here println of this. So print this object itself, meaning on this object. So you are passing this as a parameter to println. This means your current object. So this is an object, but not a string. Obviously, on this object, the toString method will get called. Means this dot toString means this is toString. So what it will print? $first name, $last name means Snehali P is 30 years old. That's what it printed. Snehali P is 30 years old. So only the first line and last 3 lines are executable statements. All others are declarations. And everything will get executed. All executable statements will get executed whenever you create an object.
Hi, Shiva, this is Sujit here.
Yes, Sujit.
If you are inheriting from some other class, let's say employee, so how will you do that? Should you like use some colon or
extends? I will show that. I will show that in the next slide.
Okay.
Are you clear with this? At least you are clear with this example.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let me again. I have a lot of confusing concepts in inheritance. Okay. If you guys want to see that Java comparison, you will go mad. Otherwise, I will skip that. Okay. I'll directly explain how inheritance can be achieved in Scala directly.
Hey, Shiva.
Yep. Yes, Raj.
Is override keyword is mandatory over there? Because in the Java, we have just annotation, right?
Yep. Annotation you give, here override is mandatory.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
And Shiva, if I have multiple objects, right? So in that case, I cannot simply skip a few executable statement for that particular object, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't skip that.
In this case, I have
Yep. Anything that is common, you should anything that is common for all the objects, that only you should put it as an executable statement. Otherwise, you declare them. You put it in a function. You put it in a method, and you call that method for whichever objects that you need.
So in that case, I cannot use this option or meaning this concept. I have to create it.
See. For example, print home is not needed for all the objects. Okay.
Yeah.
So you remove this print home. You still have def print home. Remove this executable statement print home. You remove this is a calling your print home method, right?
Yeah.
So you remove this from class, and for whichever classes you want to print home, just call that v1.printhome. And for V2 you don't want to print home, then you don't call that.
Okay, all right.
That way.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that is this. Next, let me Java comparison. I'm avoiding that. The same Java. So now you can have more than one constructor as well. Let's say I'm not going to compare with Java in this case. So I will show you this directly in the Scala. So the entire class itself will act as like a constructor that is called as primary constructor. Now, what if I want to have one more constructor? Let's say I don't know. So what is the year made? I found some. I want to insert a record where I don't know the year of manufacturing. Okay, I just know only. I don't even know the ID of the vehicle. Okay, I just know the model. I found some car. I just found the model, brand and model. Okay, just V2. A new vehicle S and brand is Ford. Paste. Okay. So now it is saying that with these two parameters you can't create an object because your constructor expects all the 5. Not enough arguments for constructor. Unspecified value parameters, brand, model, miles. If the first 2 it is treating for int. But now the same functionality you will achieve in Java by having more than one constructor. Now here how can you achieve more than one constructor in Scala? So I'm directly going with Scala. I'm not comparing that. So you can simply have another method with name as this. Okay. So we can define one or more auxiliary constructor for a class to give consumers of the class different ways to create object instances. Just this example. So one way of creation of object by passing all the 5 parameters, and the other way, different way also, I want to give this option also for my users. So we can define the auxiliary constructors as methods in the class with the name this. And we can define multiple auxiliary constructors, but they must have different signatures. Meaning, you can have any number of constructors, but each constructor should have a different number of parameters. If they have the same number of parameters, then obviously that will become the same constructor, duplicate of the same constructor. Also, one more mandatory rule that each constructor must call one of the previously defined constructor. Okay, or in this example, if I have to show you this, how to solve this problem, I will define a constructor here. Def this. Okay, def this. What all fields I want to take? Just I'll take only those. Okay, brand. Brand string. Okay. This is a function, right? You should not be using this. Now, model, again, string. Now, inside this, it should call at least another one constructor. It should call at least another one constructor. Now, what I will do is, if I don't know the ID, so if I want to give by default, so whatever the ID that, or I want to give default ID as 100. and year of manufacturing as 2016, if I don't know this. And if I want to, or you don't want, or you want this to be initialized, you can give them just year 0, 0, and brand, and model, comma, miles driven 0. This way. Or if you have any default values somewhere, you can declare your default values or your constants somewhere here, like where default ID is 1000 or 1000, and where default year is 2015. Then you can even pass them. Okay. This can be used only in a class, object, or template. Ideally, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to avoid that concept bringing right now, but the discussion of objects, companion objects. Okay. So ideally, if you want to maintain any constants, and if you want to access them just this dot way, so we write its companion object. Okay, let me bring that concept anyway, since we need that. Without that, it's not allowing me. Okay, so vehicle, yes, and here I will declare those two. Okay, and if I call this now, this dot, or not this, vehicle yes dot default ID. Yeah. So this way, and vehicle s dot default year. So you can have with the same name a class declared and object also declared. And if you declare that object immediately after your class with the same class name and having object, this is called as companion object. Okay, and generally this is used to declare any constants and anything that is common for all the objects. Okay, in other words, if I have to tell in Java's terminology for you, Raj, this is like a static block. Any static methods, any static fields which need to be available for all the objects, we'll put them in a companion object. This is a singleton object, and this will create this is already an object, vehicle S. You don't need to recreate this. New parameter is not available on this vehicle S. Whenever you say new vehicle S, this is object of this vehicle. Okay, so there is no way that you can create an object for this. For others and for non-Java guys, you just treat this like an already instantiated fields. Okay, if you want to put any constants or any methods that needs to be commonly available for all the objects, and you don't want this method to be different for each method. Like if it is not going to return a different functionality for a different object, if it is a common functionality for all the objects and the same value if you want to return, if it is a field, you can declare them here. If it is a method, you can declare them here. This is called as companion object. Also, because this is a companion for this class, and since this object created only once, we also call this as a singleton object. So one time instantiated. There is no way that you can call new operator on this and create this. Okay, so this is also called as singleton object. Now, so for my achieving that extra constructor with just 2 parameters, I defined this method, def this, and called my primary constructor passing these 2 and remaining fields as with default values. By default, ID vehicle ID should be 1000. By default, vehicle year should be 2050. This is same like you are trying to insert a record with 2 column values only into your SQL table, but the remaining columns, remaining 3 columns, so the 5th column is 0, and the first 2 columns you have at the time of table creation, you have set up a default value there. Default 100 or default this kind of stuff, right? So that way you are achieving this default values here. This is just by constructor with 2 arguments. This is called as auxiliary constructor. Auxiliary constructor.
Can I set the complete column as a default one?
Complete row?
Complete row, sorry.
Yeah, you can. Why not? Yes, that is another scenario. Yep, good, you made it. Okay, good that you made it. So where I don't know anything, but still I want to create the object. This is like a 0 arg constructor. We call this as a 0 arg constructor. I don't know anything about this. What I want to achieve, this is auxiliary constructor with 0 args, with 2 args. Now here brand and model also you don't know. You want to, do you want default values or spaces? If you want default values, let's say default brand is some Ford. Okay. Okay, and default model is this, or just a brand as brand and model as model. Now again you call this, that's it. Or if you don't want to call that, even that is fine. Just make this as an empty string, and whatever you want you can call them. So if you don't know the brand and model, you want to leave empty, you can leave this way. If you want your brand to be brand string, and you can call vehicles.default brand and default model here. These 2 are auxiliary constructors, and you declare these 2 auxiliary constructors.
One question, Shiva. The default ID and default year in 0 are constructor. I can set it like 00 or 100, 2050, something like that, right?
Yep, you can.
Should I always?
Yep. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yep, you can do this.
Okay.
Okay. So this is auxiliary constructors.
Shiva?
Yeah.
And no one can change the value of this object vehicle S, right? Once it's whatever your provided default, that's the final one, right?
In this?
Yeah.
This is a var. Again, static variable, static constants you have there, right?
Yeah.
Same. If you declare them as a var, then they are static constants.
So it can be changed through the other objects as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then after whatever you will change, that will reflect to the other one as well, because the static property is shared with others.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Shiva.
Yep. Same. This anything that you declared inside your object, it's your static keyword. Assume this as a static. That's it. If it is a var, that is a static variable in Java. If it is a val, that is a static final in Java. Now, so this way you can achieve more than one constructor in the class. And still, you declare these auxiliary constructors also inside your class declaration. This is part of your primary constructor, but these two will not get executed because these are just definitions. You're not invoking them. Okay. And always your auxiliary constructor rules, the method name should be this. And if you and it should call at least one another constructor from inside this. Those are the two rules that it has. Okay. Similarly, same example we have here. Just so generally, if someone orders a pizza, I have two attributes for pizza. One is a crust size, and the second one is crust type. Okay. If someone tells that size and type, I'll use those sizes and types to deliver. If they don't tell the size or type, still they are expecting pizza from me. I can't set size as 0 and type as empty, which means I'm not delivering anything. Okay. So in that case, I want to deliver with the default size and default type. So I specified the object pizza, default crust size as 12, and default crust type as thin. And my class pizza has var crust size and var crust type. And inside this, so this is my primary constructor, which takes two parameters. And I'm giving auxiliary constructor, 3 auxiliary constructor. If someone tells me the size, just the size, and I prepare that size, but the type will be default type that I give. And if someone tells me only the type, then I prepare with the default size as 12, but a type as whatever he asks me. And if someone don't tell, if he is not telling whether what's the size and what's the crust type, if he's still expecting say pizza, I'll give him with the default values. And you call the objects this way. So someone is, while calling also, I'm passing just the default only here, which is not making realistically sense. But yeah, size as 16 and crust type as instead of thin, I'll make it as thick or okay, or some default crust size as instead of 12 I pass 14 and crust type as regular, not thick, not thin, just regular. Okay. Now it makes sense. So this way, with the help of auxiliary constructors, you are allowing users to create objects in different ways by passing different number of parameters. So is it clear?
No, not clear. One question. So this P1 this will automatically execute like 16 and thick.
Yep.
And execute P2, right? It will call the class pizza right? And then the definition will execute one by one.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It sees that crust size of int is matching with this.
Okay.
So it passes that 14 here, and this of 14 and pizza default crust type, it brings in from here thin, and then it creates that object.
So it will sequentially execute one by one, and finally it will default it into the.
No, it will not get executed. Def this will not get executed. Def this will not. These will not get executed. These
okay,
are.
let me put it other way. It will check for each constructor.
Constructor, right? Whichever matches this signature.
Yeah. So the first two, if it doesn't match, it will go into default.
Default, the last one. Yep.
Okay.
That's.
All right.
Yep. Okay. Next. So are you guys okay that, as we agreed, like we'll have it to end of our session, or you want me to stop here? If you guys are okay, I can spend another 30 minutes.
You can stop it, Shiva, because
Okay.
we have to
stop, Shiva. Already 11 o'clock. We have to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, if everybody is okay, I'm fine.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Just, Okay.
Till tomorrow Monday, right? We have to go that way.
Yeah. And as discussed, as I already informed, next week, Sunday night class, I want your help. I'm trying to skip that Sunday's night class, but I will have it on the morning, 10 a.m.
10 a.m. EST?
10 a.m. Central, which is 11 a.m. EST.
Okay, all right.
So I'm requesting for this change. Hopefully that's the last.
So basically, it's a Sunday morning, right? Sunday morning, you're going to have
Sunday morning
class.
Instead of Sunday night. I want you to be available Sunday morning at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Toronto time.
11 to 2. What? 1 hour? 2 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours session.
Okay.
Yeah, Shiva, could you just update the calendar so that meeting invites will be
Yep. Yep. I'll right away update. Otherwise, even I'll forget. So the next Sunday, 6th session. Let me update this to timing 10 a.m. Okay. So I'll just save this, only this event, and send updates to you. So yeah, 10 to 12. Okay. Any other questions?
Shiva, I have one question.
Yep.
In the assignment, we have one question, the difference between the Java string and Scala string, right?
Yep.
But as far as in the Scala, usually Scala refer java.lang.string. So I don't think so. I can see any basic major difference between Java string and Scala string.
Yeah, I do accept that. Meaning the features wise, my intention was what extra features that you get in.
Okay.
Like you have seen just now here, right? Substitute strings with. See, if you have to use variables, how painful! Like you have to use plus and end your double quotes, right? The same example. If I have to use Java way, I have to use each field separately and concatenate them and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So is that's just the difference from the function side, right? But then the backend.
No, not the backend. I'm not worried about backend. I just want. So what extra features you will get in Scala in strings when compared to your Java? That's.
Okay. Thank you, Shiva.
Okay. So any other questions?
No.
Okay. I think you guys are rushing. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for your patience. I'll try to update that folder with assignments 2 file for this week for whatever the concepts that we have covered. Just try to find it and go through it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva.
So could you please confirm me IST timings on next Saturday? Next Saturday, same Shravani, same timing. Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m. I think the daylight or the time timing
November.
Daylight
from
changes.
Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Sunday.
So that means the timings will be as is for next week. From next week, next to next week onwards, only for Indians, the timing will change to 7:30. For all US guys, same time.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will be resending all the calendar invites, the changed time interval. Just accept them. That's it. Okay. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah.